Hey guys, I'm Dimension Jumper and welcome back to another theory video. Now, I haven't done a theory video in like a long time, like the last few months, so I'll be doing another one in like, I don't think I've done one since February, March, so yeah, I'm going to be doing another one. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Zonai and how they might have ties to, as you can clearly see in the title, the Mogma. Now, I have seen some other Zeldatubers talking about the Zonai in their own theory videos, and I might as well throw my hat into the ring and just talk about my own theory about the Zonai themselves. And just to catch everyone up who might not know about the Zonai, they are basically this sort of race that's been known to like create some of the structures in Breath of the Wild, like the different labyrinths that you see in the different areas in Hyrule. Like I think there's one in near Gerudo Desert. There's one in the snowy areas in like the north, and I think like in the far north, like northwest section of Hyrule, and then there's one in like the northeast of Hyrule. And each of those labyrinths have their own shrines in them that you can collect and can beat, and they also have the barbarian armor, which the Zonai themselves created, and also they have their own structure in Fan Woods near the Spring of Courage, and I think it's also said that they also worship the dragon there. I think. So yeah, so that's basically, and they're basically kind of disappeared throughout, and they're not really shown that much. They're only like probably commented on every now and again, but you don't really see them make a huge appearance in Breath of the Wild. And so I think, and you're probably wondering how this might connect to the Mogma. Now, the Mogma are basically these creatures, or this mole race. They're basically that you see in Breath of the Wild, in Skyward Sword, and you find them mainly in the Elden region, and you come across like a couple here and there from time to time, but I think they are the ancestors of the Zonai, because if you look at all of the races that you see throughout Skyward Sword, so the Gorons, the Kikwi, the Kikwi, the jellyfish-looking guys, Hylians, that sort of thing. They all have future descendants, incarnations of themselves. So if you've got the Kikwi, they become the Korks and the Kokiri, and then with the jellyfish guys, you've got the Zonai. Not the Zonai, the Zoras, and then they themselves in Wind Waker become the Rito. And then with the Gorons, they just remain the Gorons. The Hylians, again, they remain the Hylians, and then you've got like the Gerudo, which are basically like an off branch of the Hylians, because Gerudos are basically kind of like Hylians in terms of appearance wise. And out of all of those guys, out of all of the races that they received in Skyward Sword, the Mogma don't really have an ancestor that we know of, or a descendant that we've seen in future games. So, and so I think that they might have, within the few years that they've been around, like the Mogma, they might have evolved somehow to become the Zonai, and then let's say from the years between the events before Breath of the Wild, like around 10,000 years ago, and during the events of Breath of the Wild, they might have gone away somehow, and they might have been living within in the Fan Woods somehow. And you're probably wondering how they might do that, because they might not be climate, or like not be used to Fan Woods, but I would like to say that that's like not really true, because in about halfway through the game, when you're trying to find the first sacred flame in Farron Woods, and when you're trying to get sacred water for Farron, the water dragon, you see several, or one of the Mogmas within the first temple, I think the Seal Temple, and he's trying to find some treasure, but then ends up just finding water, and you see him throughout part of the dungeon, and I think that's quite important, because it shows that Mogmas don't necessarily have to live within the Elden region. They could be, sort of like climatize to any location that they're in, whether if it's in Farron Woods, or let's say Linear Desert, or Elden Volcano. They could possibly live anywhere, and they could just be fine within any of the climates. And I also like to think that that there's not only one Zonai tribe, but two different ones that are from the same sort of tribe, but there's like two branches. And you're probably wondering how that could be possible. That could only be one. And I would like to say to you that could be true, if not for the fact that there was in Skyward Sword that you bring a Mogma to the sky, and I'll show you that now in Skyward Sword HD. So for this part, I'm going to talk about how the Mogmas could have evolved into the Zonai in the sky, and then I'm going to be talking about, or mainly in Skyward Sword, and then I'm going to be talking about how the Mogmas could have evolved into the Zonai in Breath of the Wild. So the first one, as I said, I'm going to be talking about mainly on the ones that could have evolved in the sky. And if you've been to the Pumpkin Landing, which is located about, I would say, southeast of Skyloft. So it's if you're on Skyloft and you fly here, you'll arrive at the Pumpkin Landing. And if you do, if I quickly go inside, if you do the Chandelier side quest, in which if you break the chandelier, which you can do at like the very beginning of the game, you will have to basically try and repay to get a new one. And you do a bunch of different side quests, like trying to give the head commander guy at the academy in Skyloft some pumpkin soup, delivering some stuff here and there, playing your harp with the owner's sister, the owner's daughter here in front of these guys. And I think one of the last ones that you have to do, which I think you can do after you've done the side quest, is finding someone to help with the pumpkin field. And you can find a Mogma. You can find a Mogma. I think the Elder, I think his name is Guld, I believe his name is. And as you can see, we're not in the Elden region, and this is the side quest you can do. And I think that because of how he was how should I put this? I think it's because the Mogmas don't necessarily have to live in a hot region like Elden, because the Elden region is a very hot and it's a very hot climate, and there are some places where you can't really survive for very long because you'll burst into flames, unless you've got the fire shield earrings that you'll get on the third trial in Elden, which makes you immune to flames and hot temperatures and stuff like that. So I think with Guld and like other Mogmas, if you had Guld up here, he can survive this kind of temperature, because I think this could possibly be a much more colder climate than Elden, because this is mainly more in the sky. And I think the higher you go, the more colder it gets, I think. Don't quote me on that. That's why I think that what happens. The higher you get, the colder it gets. So yeah, so I think that with this, gold is able to survive any kind of climate, or the Mogmas are able to survive in colder climates, as well as like, you know, warmer climates, and as well as like tropical climates like in Farron. And also, I think that if I want now that I'm on this, I want to quickly talk about how if the Zonai are part of the Mogmas, and we see a bunch of different technology or structures, I might think that during his time up here, Gold might have found some ore. You know, like how you find ore in like a variety of places, like you know, mining equipment or mining structures, that sort of thing. And I think that he might have found some while he was digging around in the field, or let's say a future incarnation found some unknown ore or whatever, and they then built the different things, so like the structures and maybe the robot as well, that we see in Breath of the Wild, the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, the second one that we have. And so yeah, and now I'm going to move on to Breath of the Wild and talk about how the Mogmas might have survived in Breath of the Wild 2, or in the world in the world of Breath of the Wild. So let's say, for the case of argument, that Link right now is a Mogma that was around, let's say, 10,000 years ago, around the time of the first Calamity, or when Calamity Ganon first appeared. And as you can see, a lot of the Elden region has been, a lot of it is like mostly rock, and you know, a lot of mountain areas and a lot of lava areas. So I like to think that during, you know, the time after Breath of the Wild, after Skyward Sword, and before the events 10,000 years ago, in terms of Breath of the Wild's case, that the Gorons started to mine and started like building their homes, building ways to live, that sort of thing. And let's say the events 10,000 years ago is what we see now, let's say. So as you can see, a lot of it has been reduced to, like, you know, lava, like you can clearly see a lot of lava lakes, that sort of thing. A lot of the mountains have kind of been reduced, like they've been, like, you know, severely, like, you know, like debris. Is that the way saying? Am I using that correctly? I think I think I'm using it correctly. And you can see, like, you know, different. You can clearly see, like, you know, a shrine there, several shrines. You can see, I think, the hot springs, and the Gorons might have built this. So the Mogmas, and let's say if they are the Zonai, possibly, they might have felt that their kind of ecosystem was at risk, because if you remember, the Mogmas kind of rely on spending time underground sometimes if they want to look for treasure. And let's say that the Gorons, because of all of the stuff that they've been doing, you know, building houses, taking away, you know, specific structural areas, might have caused the Mogmas to kind of like relocate, sort of, and that might have taken their travels all the way to the Farron region. So let's say again, Link is a Mogma. I know he's not, but let's just say again, for case of argument, he is at this point, and let's say just for the time being. So the Mogmas might have wanted to travel somewhere which is a similar climate for mainly for the Mogmas who were down on the surface, and the only one that might have survived is the Farron region, because it's got like a sort of like similar tropical climate. It's more of a warmer. It's warm, it's a warm climate, but I think it might because of how because of the Mogma you see in the sealed temple, the one you see there. He might have passed down some information to his friends or whatever, and said, "Oh, by the way, I know this place where we can possibly go to if we ever want to like relocate, and it's got like a similar climate, it's got a similar ecosystem, that sort of thing, and we can use that to like we can go there to like find some more treasure, find some more ores, some minerals, that sort of thing." And when the Gorons started doing their thing, the Mogmas might have went down here, and they might have started like building these kind of structures, and then they became the Zonai themselves. Because if you look at these structures, which are basically like dragon statues, you can kind of see that they're sort of weathered and kind of broken because of time. And yeah, and I think that the ore that or the whatever the Zonai found to build these kind of structures on the surface on Hyrule might have been ones that were easily weathered and were easily able to go away and break down over time. Whereas with the ones we see in the second Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, that one might take more time to erode and get destroyed throughout time. So yeah, I think that seems somewhat interesting, because you can kind of say two different perspectives. So yeah, it seems interesting. So the reason why I think there could be two branches of the Zonai Tribe is because of the way that we've seen some of their of their technology or their structures that we've seen throughout both Breath of the Wild and the trailers that we've seen within the Breath of the Wild 2. So if we look at Breath of the Wild, we've got things like the barbarian armor, we've got the labyrinths, and we've got the structures that's in Farron Woods. And then if we look at Breath of the Wild, the Breath of the Wild 2 trailers, we've got these if we look at, let's say, the first one, we've got the sort of that big structural thing that Ganondorf is under, and also in the second trailer, we see those sort of sky islands and some of them have sort of again structures like the labyrinths, but also these ones in the sky are kind of more polished and more less weathered, because if you compare, if you look at one of the structures, let's say at the end of the trailer, and let's say the one of the structures in Farron Woods, you can see that one is a bit more cleaner and the other one's a bit more weathered. And I'm going to be showing you how they could be connected in now. So these two screenshots are from the first two Breath of the Wild 2 trailers. So this one is from the teaser trailer that we got back in 2019, and this is the more recent one that we got from E3 a few months ago. And as you can see, they're very, very different in tone. So for this one, it's this trailer here. The one we got back in 2019, it's a bit more darker, a lot more grittier, and then with this one, it's a bit more lighter and a bit more colourful. So, and you're probably wondering how this could be connected to the Zonai and the Mogmas. So, if you look at more closely at the structures that are in these two screenshots, so if you look at, let's say here, this one in the first trailer, this could be made by the Zonai on the surface, so the Mogmas who didn't go up to Skyloft or any of the islands of the sky. and this could be just one of the um, structures or artifacts that the Zonai made in order to keep away Ganondorf or somehow seal him away. Because if you look at the entire screenshot, you've got, the malice that's on the bottom of Ganondorf, as well as going up into this main structure here, as well as the green spiral here. And I think for this one in particular, for this particular screenshot, this is a combination of both um, Zonai on the ground and Zonai from the sky technology kind of combined, because I think I've said that that the Zonai are somehow managed to create magic. So, and I think that it would be more likely if the Zonai that are in the sky would have made magic or would have been able to develop magic, because if you look at the barbarian armor, and I think one of the descriptions said that it was made by the Zonai. So I like to think that um, even though the Zonai tribe in the sky and the um, and the surface might come from the same tribe, that being the Mogma, I think that the ways in which they act are different. Because if you look at let's move on to this screenshot now. This and maybe look at the robot guy. He looks more, robotic and a lot more magical, in a sense. Because I think, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like this bit of green, just here, which is basically, if you watch the trailer, it's basically some kind of magic energy thing. So I like to think that the Mogmas that went to the sky, I think Gold and perhaps some other Mogmas that during the events of Skyward Sword, up until the events of before Breath of the Wild happened, some went up to the sky and somehow became a part of the Zonai in the sky, and then they themselves developed magic and focused how to create the magic and use it for themselves, and create stuff like this robot guy. Whereas if we look at this screenshot again, the Mogmas that stayed on the surface became more barbaric, more and didn't really use magic a lot. So hence why they might have made the barbarian armor and also these kind of structures that look more weathered, kind of like the mazes and the structures that you see in the Spring of Courage in Farron Woods. Now, if we move on to this screenshot from the second trailer that we got, as you can see, we've got this robot guy, and as you can see, he's well more advanced in terms of technology, the way it's created, and this could be an IROC boss. That's what I've heard, or it could be a BMOS, maybe, or it could be a combination of the both, an IROC BMOS type of enemy. And I think the IROCs we got to see in Majora's Mask, I think, and I think we found one in Stone. The fourth dungeon, I think it's Stone Tower Temple, I think it's called, and this could just be like one of them, and this could be powered by magic, as well as the minerals and the materials that are found on him. And I think this could be, and if the Zonai did use magic, they could be using some kind of animated or animation kind of magic, in which they created the materials, they created the body for this guy, and then they used a spell to basically animate him, bring him to life, and and perhaps they needed a robot guy to help build stuff, like they're doing structures and stuff like that, and again, that's why if you look at this structure in the corner, this, if you compare it to the structures here, you can see that this one is a lot more. It's not as weathered as this one, and I think that the Zonai that are in the sky possibly are well more advanced than the Zonai on the surface, because I kind of feel like that, because even though they're the same tribes, they could be using different things, and they could be using different kinds of technology and stuff like that in Breath of the Wild universe to try and do different things and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's what I think about how the Zonai have been have created their own technologies in their two different branches of their own race. So yeah. So overall, I think that between for the Mogmas, from Skyward Sword up until about the events of 10,000 years ago before Breath of the Wild, I think within that time they somehow managed to learn magic or something that's equivalent to magic or something like that. Because if you look at the first teaser trailer of Breath of the Wild 2, you can kind of see the markings that's swirling around Ganondorf, that's like flowing from the hand, and I like to think that's some kind of magic that the Mogma, who later became the Zonai, kind of developed and harnessed. And I think that's kind of interesting because we haven't really seen magic being used a lot within within the Zelda series, because the only kinds of magic that we've seen is Ganondorf using some of his own magic, the Twilight using some of their own magic, and probably the two witches using their own magic, and obviously Link using some magic like the Great Spin Attack, the magic armor, the different goddess powers you get in Ocarina of Time. But apart from that, we don't really see a lot of magic being used. A lot of the things are basically like a lot of the dungeons you go through are basically more man-made than they are magical. You might see the occasional magical thing here and there, like you might need to use a fire arrow to get through a spider's web, or you might need the Song of Storms to get to the well in Kakaiko Village, but there's not really a lot of magic used. So I think that the Mogmas over the years developed or harnessed the use of magic, and they used it to their own ways. So that they could have used it to like seal away different things. So let's say different dangers. So like let's say if there was a great danger that's like, not on the same level as Calamity Ganon or Ganondorf himself, but let's say that could possibly do a lot of damage. The Mogmas could seal them away for, let's say, 1,000 or 10,000 or how many years they need that to be sealed away, so it can't bring destruction onto Hyrule or the world. And I think that when they saw Ganondorf, and that I think that they used their own magic to basically try and seal him away for the inevitable future, so that no one can free him or try and resurrect him, because then he'll bring destruction to the world. And I think that could be something that could be how the Mogmas could have developed magic, and they could have used it. They could have passed it throughout the years. And also, I like to think, for one last thing, that when it came to Ganondorf himself, I like to think that both Zonai, so the one in the sky and the one on the surface, kind of combined forces to basically try and stop him. Because if you look at in the first trailer that we see Ganondorf, You get to see the hand that is on his chest, as well as the letters and the swirling thing, as well as the mouth, and you also see the big structure that's over Ganondorf. And I like to think that because of the Zonai's big history, and if they are somehow connected to the Mogmas, they use some of their resources that they might have found under the ground to basically build the structures, and then they somehow built it, and then they contained it to Ganondorf, and they kind of trapped him there. So yeah, that's been my theory for how the Zonais might be connected to the Mogmas. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.